Hello, I'm Danny Gregory, and this is the final colored pencil webinar. What am I doing here? Good question. I am here to introduce Kosha, who is going to be our teacher of the week, who's going to answer your final questions. We're going to talk a bit about the course. I thought I would start by showing you some of my own pencil drawings. I'm not really a pencil person, but I have used pencils just so that you don't feel like I'm completely unqualified to talk about this medium. But let me just show you. I'm just going to switch here and show you what I have wrought. This is a special colored pencil dedicated book of mine, and I was drawing animals, mammoths, sleeping dogs, letting them lie, letting them be cross-hatched. Here's some more dinosaurs and some more dogs. This is a really nice sketchbook, by the way. It is really nice paper. I don't know if you can tell. You can hear it. But it was made by my friend Ross Stendhal, who is a great bookbinder as well as many other things. And she sent me this, and she said, when you get ready for using colored pencils, this is great. It's actually, I think it's special paper that's used for prints, but as you can see, it's got deckled edges all the way around. And anyway, so these are some of my, as you can see, I basically was just cross-hatching and using different colors. I didn't blend, I didn't do all of the amazing things that we've learned in this class, but I did my best. I think this example shows you why we need Kosha. Here she is. Kosha.
Hello.
Hello. So I was just showing my my inept. Well, I wouldn't say they were inept. I would just say that they were untutored. There are a lot of things about colored pencils that I didn't know when I was doing this. So that's why this class has been so necessary and so fantastic. And thank you for teaching us so much stuff.
Well, it wasn't just me.
That's true, it wasn't.
I because I really think that, I don't feel like I'm an expert on colored pencils, and during the filming of this course, I have learned so much, and I got more and more excited about using colored pencils, actually, just by seeing, the experts do their thing. Because I only know that one thing, and it's a little bit of an elaborate kind of technique that I've shown, the more like, or almost photorealistic kind of style. And I know that takes practice and it takes a lot of patience. But then seeing Swarovski and Katja and also Andrea like doing work so quickly and actually making such expressive drawings with colored pencils, that was really, for me, that was a big revelation. And also, of course, it was a revelation. It was also the reason that we wanted to do this colored pencil course, because we know they are such an expressive medium, only how, So I don't really think that I am the big teacher in this whole course, but it was certainly great to run it and to guide everyone through it. Absolutely.
I think it's you make a good point, which is like a lot of times we find a way of doing things, like we kind of figure it out, and then we just sort of stay there. And that's one of the reasons to take classes, even if you feel like pretty accomplished with something. When you take a class, suddenly you discover all the things that you could have done that you didn't know were even possible. So it was definitely a good idea. I think a lot of people saw this class and said, colored pencils, I can't imagine how I would spend a month learning stuff, but clearly they could and did. So
Yes, and I think a lot of people actually bought like whole sets of colored pencils because of it. There were people who are now converted. Like I thought I only wanted watercolors, but now I'm all into colored pencils. It's true, you can really sort of fall in love with them. Um, yeah, I mean, I know that I didn't carry colored pencils around with me because I have this go-to that is pen and ink, or just like a pen with ink in it, and watercolors. But doing or with the start of this course, or actually with the start of the month of June, I decided the month of June will be my colored pencils month, and I will fill a whole sketchbook with just using colored pencils. I will just, follow everything that I've learned in during the filming and follow everything during the course. And that was amazing because just getting out of that comfort zone and having a different go-to. I just left my ink, my fountain pen, my watercolors. I left it all aside. I left it home, and I only took colored pencils with me. So I did not have any choice, but using those. And that was actually great because I really discovered the fun of it. And, sometimes I would just use one color or two colors, and sometimes I would just have like, I don't know, I kept like 60 pencils or something in a pencil case with me. And sometimes I would just take out so many, make a whole mess. It's really fun. If you want, I can show you the sketchbook I filled.
let's do that. Yeah.
Then I need to switch my camera. Where is it? Here is it. Yeah. Can you see?
No, it's frozen.
Is it? Oh, is it? Oh no. Okay, I can also just hold it up.
I think we have. We're just. I can only see your video is frozen.
Oh no.
Hmm.
How about now? Am I back? Did I break it?
I think you broke it. Ah!
No.
All right.
Oh no.
Okay, so hang up, and let's call back, and we'll reconnect this.
Okay.
You know, you just she just can't have nice things. She broke it. She broke our whole system. But let me just get her back. It'll take 1 second. All right, there you are again. Let me just bring you back.
Sorry.
There you are. Okay.
I won't do anything. We should have tested that.
Yeah, you're getting fancier than we can without preparation. So go ahead. Hold it up.
Sketchbook.
Okay, I'm going to give you the whole. Yes. You'll have the whole screen. So there you go. Go. It's you're the star. Okay. Do it.
Well, I mean, I don't have a whole story with this, but it's just that I just filled this whole sketchbook during the month of June and a little bit of July. This was my first page, and clearly I was very uncomfortable with it yet. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't pick my colors in a very smart way, but it was a good start. And then I started to think about limiting colors. And this was actually really great because it was at a place that had very limited colors in their interior, so I could just copy that. That was really great. Here, just 2 colors. I love doing that. Limited colors, lots of people, lots of places, just carrying the sketchbook around with me on location. This was really great. That blue, I love that color blue. Here's one done with one of those multicolor pencils. Flowers. I don't know if this is really interesting, but I just wanted to show you that you can just fill a whole sketchbook using that one tool, and still it's so versatile. It's actually more versatile than using your pen and watercolors, which is a go-to for many people. This one sucks. That one too. Doesn't matter. So yeah. And I just went through this whole sketchbook, which was actually, it is a toned paper sketchbook, just like the one that you showed just now, only it wasn't made by Ross, but it was made by Hannemüller, not especially for me. I just bought it in the shop. And I like this one actually, because it's a combination of the sort of very layered colored pencil and the strong marks that you can make with colored pencils. Really like that. And it's called Hannemüller Cappuccino book, because it has a cappuccino color. Look at that.
There you go.
Timing.
The perfect timing.
And I thought, well, I can use this for my colored pencils. Here, this is by the end of the sketchbook. I started to crave other tools again. So I added watercolor. Started with some watercolor and then colored pencils. So I didn't this one too. I didn't really break my rules of using colored pencils, because I still had colored pencils in the drawing. And because I know my drawing style, I can see that I get more and more comfortable. I don't know if you can see it too. Maybe it's just the tool through the sketchbook, which is really great, because it means that I've been learning with every drawing that I make about my tools, about the different kinds of pencils that I have, how they work, what I like about them, when I pick them and when I don't pick them. And yeah, I just can't get enough of it.
I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but a lot of this stuff looks different to me from what I'm used to from you. Like, it feels brighter.
Mm-hmm.
It feels, I think the limited color thing, I mean, I love that too. That to me was one of the big important things. But it just felt, I don't know, it felt more joyous somehow, those drawings that you just showed us.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, often, and that's the thing, my go-to is black line.
Right.
And I like hatching, and I like, I just really like using line. But then using the colored pencils, it pushes you in. You can still use your line, but it's in the line has like texture itself already. So it's already so different. And then you can do so many different things with the marks and the pressure and the different colors that you can use. It is playful. It is a more playful process. Absolutely. So often I would think like, oh, this is done. But then I would like do a lot of marks in the background or something, which helps to that playful effect. It's true. It's really different from what I usually do or used to do. I don't know what's next now. But I do feel like I added something to my skill and to my choice of, how to make a drawing.
Fantastic. Well, so you were not the only person who was changed by this course. There's a lot of people who have shown up to talk about it. So, guys, if you have questions for Kosha, please post them in the comments in the chat. We have a few. I mean, so far the only question I see here is a very important one from Karen, who asks, "Where do you get the Sketchbook School stickers?" So, exactly. You have to know somebody at Sketchbook School.
Yes,
it's true. Maybe we'll send her one of them. But there we go. So here, let me just pull up some of the questions that we had before that people had put into the class, and we will see if we can begin with those. But in the meantime, you guys, please think about what you would like to ask, and let's let's put them up there on the comments section. All right, Kosha, let me just find these things because. So here's one from John. He says, I sometimes overwork pieces and see shiny areas as a result. But is that an effect of burnishing, or is it the wax bloom that I've seen mentioned elsewhere? Is it even a problem? So that is shiny. I know what he means. You know, this kind of like a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
flat shiny areas. Go ahead. What do you think about that?
yeah. I think Judith actually explained this in the webinar that we had with her, because she is like the technical expert that we brought in from Derwent. Um, and what I understand is that there is, if you use colored pencils, there is this sort of wax in it, or oil even. It depends on what it's based on, but there is, if you, okay, hang on, I'm going to start again, because it's not only that, it's also, and that's something that was for me like an aha thing. She says if you push too hard on your paper, and if your colored pencils aren't very sharp, so you haven't sharpened them very well, then you are actually pushing the material in, sort of onto the paper, so the paper becomes flat. So instead of sort of putting it into the tooth of the paper, you are just flattening it out. And then once you start adding more, you are adding onto the waxy layer you already have made, and then putting more and more and more on it, that will get that shiny layer. If it's a problem, well, I think John is asking, is it even a problem? Then I think it's not, because I mean, if it's a question, if it's a problem, then it's not really a problem if you don't mind having that sort of waxy shine. I don't mind either, but if you are trying to layer a lot of colors, then at some point that waxy layer makes it like saturated, so you cannot add anything more. So then it becomes a problem. So if you are layering, burnishing, then you need to have a light touch so that you can keep adding. So that's, yeah.
I think that's a good answer. I think what was happening also is the pencil layers, as you said, the kind of waxy buildup that's happening is overwhelming the texture of the paper. So you have texture of paper on certain parts of the drawing, and then suddenly you'll have these areas where it's like flat. So that I think that's really the question, is like, do you want that?
Yeah.
Like, you might want to draw your eye to something, and so therefore having it feel different could be your objective. So, all right, I think that's a good answer. All right, so now a flurry of questions have come up. So let's tackle some others.
Good.
Okay. So April says, when layering desired colors and I add additional layers of a darkest color to create the shadow, I notice that during burnishing, the shadow color comes off. What am I doing wrong? That's interesting. So
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So she's burnishing it, and then so she puts down the color, then she puts another color to create a shadow, then she burnishes it, and the shadow color comes off. Is it coming off, or is it just blending into the other color? As you're burnishing it, you're blending the colors together, so your darker color seems to be disappearing, but it isn't really disappearing. It's blending, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be. It seems like, if I read that question, it seems like it's almost like she's erasing it again. But I really don't have an answer for that.
I mean, it could be that she's doing it too hard. It could also be that you want to burnish your colors together and then add your shadow on later, secondarily.
Yeah.
But that's hard. It's hard to. Maybe if you posted an example in the schoolyard, that might be helpful, April.
Yeah.
So that way you can actually
Yeah.
see what you're talking about. It's a bit more difficult to understand exactly from your description, but and post it, and worst comes to worst, we can also show it to another teacher and see what they think if we can answer it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good. So here's Joanna. She says, I'm working through the same sketchbook too, but I'm spending too much time on each drawing. Maybe trying to shade too much. What kind of advice do you have to hold back and be faster?
Good question.
Usually the problem is the opposite, that people are rushed too fast. So that's an interesting problem.
Yeah, I think, I think Joanna might be used to fast watercoloring. And then when you use colored pencils, then yeah, it is a different process. Too much time on each drawing, maybe trying to shade too much. Yeah, well, what I've been doing a lot in my cappuccino book is still line actually, and then what I have, yeah, if this is a good example, I think if I'm trying to shade like bigger areas, I'm just using the side of the color pencil, so you can actually cover quite a lot of ground in very quick time. Also, I leave a lot of background, just line, and that's it. Yeah, I think that's basically the best thing I can come up with. And also mark making instead of really trying to fill everything with layers, because I do think with the cappuccino book, layering and burnishing and stuff like that doesn't really work that well. You need to keep it really simple because you already have the brown background color. I hope that helps.
Do you think, in general, though, that reportage kinds of drawings, like what you're doing there, where you're on a scene, you're trying to capture a scene, you're throwing in color, but you want to keep the energy and movement there, it's very different than if you were doing a careful study of a still life and you were spending a lot of time like really
Absolutely
burnishing and polishing and blending and all that kind of stuff. This is a very different sort of drawing.
This took me a long time. I mean, that is like a serious sort of old-fashioned study of a flower, you know? And it takes a long time because you're looking at each petal and trying to really capture that and capture the different oranges and yellows and stuff like that. So then it takes longer. But it's true, if you're on location, and that was actually, I was sitting in the sun. I had a headache. I was with other people. There was so much going on, but still, I wanted to just make that one drawing. So I did it quickly too. Like I want to make this drawing and then get out of here. So I guess that also captured.
So the answer is have a headache and have too many people around you, and then you'll just want to get it done and stop belaboring it, Joanna. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just trying to simplify things as well. Try to use marks instead of trying to, like the trees here. I just did some mark making, and then you actually have that tree, and then you can add a few different greens or some blue or whatever to get that shading in. But I think you need to be think a little bit more like an illustrator maybe than actually trying to draw and capture exactly the tones and the shades.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to another question. So Vivian asks, when you start a sketch, do you start with guidelines or go straight to drawing?
I wouldn't even know how.
I'm not sure what you mean by guidelines, but yeah.
Yeah, I think guidelines, as in maybe if you start with if you draw a building or something. I never do that. Sometimes I have an example here. Another fun project, all in colored pencil. I did this drawing. First, I did this drawing of a building. It was in Berlin, and I actually started out way wrong because this tower is a lot higher, but I wanted to fit it on the page. So, with one of the next buildings I did, which was a really weird building, I wanted to make sure to have the tower as well as the bottom of the building. So what I did is I started with, and I learned this from Nina Johansson actually. I started with a dot here and a dot here, just the landmarks of the shape. and then a dot here, and a dot like this is where that roof starts. That's all. No guidelines, just dots to indicate this is the start, this is the ending, and it all has to fit between here. And that really helped me to fit it in, and it sort of looks like the building. um, so that's the only sort of guideline that I would use, but I always start drawing right away. I'm too impatient. I just want to, once I feel like drawing, I just want to start.
Good. Well, I think you've answered that. Um, Susan asks, she says, I can only get a so-so black, not a very saturated one. Is there a way to get that, to get a deeper, juicier, darker black that isn't a gray, I guess, a lot of times?
I would say don't use black. I would say mix your colors. You can use a black pencil as a starting point, but often I often feel like black feels a little bit dull and gray. That can sometimes be really nice, especially if you use it with another color. But if you want it really saturated, I would mix it with some kind of an indigo blue, maybe, or brown, or both, and try to. I think you should just try to mix a few colors that you have and see what it brings. Because if you want a saturated black, I think you want a black that has some life in it, and then it needs more colors than just the black. Don't you think?
I do. I mean, I think another answer could also come up in this next question, um, which is, can you talk about Inktense?
What should I talk about?
Yeah,
Yes, I can.
yeah, talk about Inktense pencils and what you think about them. What,
Yeah, so I don't use them that often, but I do find them super intriguing. And when you see Andrea use them, you're like, wow. so, so the Inktense pencils, I mean, their name is already telling you what it is. The colors are super intense, um, especially when you activate them with water, because I don't know how it actually works, but it is I think it is ink actually that's in there. So if you use it, if you make a line and some scribbles with it, and then you add color or water, then actually you can still see that line. So it's the line is still very strong there, but it also, there's also color around it that you have just, used with your water. So that's what I really like about Inktense. So you can mix it, but you can also just with a little light touch of water activate the colors to be super bright, which is really great about them and really different from watercolor pencils.
because our expert from Derwent, who was in that special webinar that we did, she talked
Yeah.
about Inktense isn't actually even a pencil. It's not graphite.
No,
It's ink. It's literally.
it is. Yeah.
I don't understand quite what it is, like how you have sticks of ink, but that's what it is. It's a totally different material.
Yeah, exactly. And if you, for example, use watercolor pencils, you can draw with them, then put some water on it, and then once it has dried and you add again watercolor, it will be, you can move the pigment around again.
Mm-hmm.
But with Inktense, you can't because it's ink.
It's ink, right?
So once it's set, you can add water, but nothing happens, which is pretty great because then you can add another layer actually and
Mm.
activate that again. So there's a lot of options
So
with
you could do an
Inktense
Inktense
pencils.
drawing and then watercolor over it the way that you would with ink, which is pretty great. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of questions going on about stumps. People are stumped about stumps, and the thing that they're stumped about is when your blending stump tip gets dull and dirty. Can you clean or restore it, or do you have to just use another one? And there's been a few people have been answering that, but let's see what your answer is.
I think I actually show that in one of the videos. Um, you can use a piece of sanding paper and just clean your stump on top of on it, and then you can sharpen it as well, and you just blow off the dust that comes off of it, and then it's clean again. So that's my
Yeah, I'm not
my
sure if these questions are from people who haven't actually taken the class. So, that's what happens when we let all these tourists in to our webinars.
hello.
But hopefully they'll be convinced that this is a thing worth investigating. Yeah, because there's a lot of questions that I think have been answered. Um, so, Karen, yeah, Inktense are actually water-soluble ink pencils. I guess that's a way of describing it.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
lot
true.
of confusing combination of terms there, but yeah, water soluble ink and pencil all in one. So, but there seems to be a
Yeah.
lot of enthusiasm for those in the conversation here. Um, so all right, so here's another question from the class from Mary Catherine McDonald. She says, "What kind of paper do the artists use in Kosha's studio? It worked really well as it took watercolor and gouache, didn't buckle, and seemed to be a great surface for colored pencils. Also, the color paper that Kosha used this week was it pastel paper or another kind altogether?" So that is the question. Paper. What can you tell us about paper?
Okay.
And I
So
guess the
I
specific paper that you gave. I mean, that's a good question. First of all, did the artist use their own material? Did you just give them whatever you were using?
They use their own pencils.
Mm-hmm.
But paper, I had a whole stack of different kinds of paper. Um, I had this, and I had this, and I had this, and this, and this. But I had to run back to the store because they all chose this.
Bristol. Okay.
Yeah. So Bristol paper is they all wanted a smooth surface, and I also turned to this one. I think I used one of the other ones, but the most smooth ones. And all the ones that I showed you are actually pretty smooth. But for yeah, you can see this. I'm showing you a black piece of paper. It's just really unhelpful. It's very smooth, glad in Dutch. Um, and that's what they all really wanted. And because it's thick enough, it really holds watercolor as well. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Actually, it's really nice.
Yeah, and Bristol, when we did people drawing people, that was like the favorite thing too. I mean, I love Bristol paper. It works great
Mm,
with ink. It works great with
it does.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 nice and thick and chunky. But you so rarely see sketchbooks made of them. I've had them actually bound, Bristol bound as a sketchbook, just because it's hard to find them for some
It's
reason.
true. Yeah. And well, I really like using the Hanemüller Nostalgie
Mm-hmm.
sketchbooks,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they seem to be similar.
They
The
are.
paper seems to be similar to Bristol, but I I don't know what Bristol actually really means.
Right.
So I just usually go to the shop, especially for pads like that, and just feel the paper,
Right.
and it's just how I decide. And sometimes you can test as well in the shop. They have like samples, you can test and see what feels best for you. And some papers actually, you know, for my Hanemune cappuccino book, I actually found out that some pencils that I really like on Bristol paper didn't work that well on this paper. So it also really depends on the pencil that you use, and it's such a very personal preference. So
All right, good. Well, here's another question from the class, which is, with tone paper, you say it's great because you can use the paper as your background, but then everybody proceeded to draw in a background with colored pencil. Is there a time when you leave the background blank? or is it the color behind the colored pencils that you like? I think that's a good question.
I don't really know if I understand the question, but
well, I think it's basically saying like when you draw with colored pencils on a colored background. I think she's thinking of it as the background behind the thing that you're drawing, but it's actually the background behind every line that's showing through.
Yes, yeah. So how I see it is that you have a mid-tone with the paper as your background. So it's not the background, literally the background of the thing that you're drawing, because you might actually want to fill that because that background is white or yellow or whatever, and you want to emphasize on that. But you can leave bits of your drawing just, with an outline or just a little bit of shading and a little bit of highlights, and the rest is that mid-tone. And that's so great about tone paper. Don't know if I have a really good example here in this book, but I don't think so. Which is strange because that's the best thing of the, oh, here maybe. Actually, a drawing that I don't really like, but if you look at the feet, you can really see that I only used blue for the darks and white for the highlights, and the rest is that mid-tone, and you can't accomplish that if you have white paper. So
yeah, I think it's a whole approach to thinking almost as if the colors fall into three categories. So there's the the darks, the midtones, and the lights. And if you decide that your midtones are going to be the background, so then you can start by drawing your darks, and then come in with your highlights at the end, and leave the midtones, undefined.
Yes. Yeah, and that might actually also really be a good another piece of advice for Joanna's question about the shading. Think about those three things, like highlights, midtones, darks.
Right. Good. Yes, in fact, Karen says she wants to put her own color paper into a book. I mean, there are sketchbooks I've seen that have actually a whole range of different colors in them. I'm trying to remember the name of the brand. I mean, you're unlikely to find many examples of that, and a lot of times you may not like the paper. I think Fabriano actually makes a book that's like that. It's a big fat book with lots of different colors. I actually had a book bound for me by a bookbinder, and I took like 10 different kinds of paper, and I just said, here, just put them in and bind them together. And then when I was turning the page, to go to the next page, and suddenly, oh no, it's like really heavy watercolor paper, and then the next page, oh no, it's like green, and you go through it. And that was sort of an interesting set of challenges, but you could obviously make that for yourself if you wanted to. But it's a simple thing. If you ever want to make a sketchbook, this is a really good kind of tip, is get a bunch of paper, get all the paper that you want. You could buy big sheets of paper and cut them up, and then just go and get them spiral bound. You can just go to Kinko's or something like that, Staples, and have them just put them into a spiral binding, and then you'll have a sketchbook instantly. You don't have to have a perfect bound book if you don't want to take bookbinding classes and stuff like that. So simple way to experiment with different kinds of paper. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are there any two different kinds of picture? This is kind of a specific question, but have you ever used lavender spike oil, essential oil, for blending?
I haven't, and I have to admit I have actually never really blend with any solvents. But one of the tips that Judith gave us was don't use any of the oil kind of stuff, because it will actually stain your paper. So I wouldn't do it. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's used. I mean, it'll probably make your sketchbook smell really nice. But
yeah, I think so too.
On the upside, but yeah, I don't know if Melissa's bringing this up because she's actually heard. She says it's sold by Blick, so maybe it's something we just don't know about. I don't know. April asks, when burnishing, do you need all the colors down initially, or can you add a color after burnishing?
Yeah, you can add.
Essentially,
Yeah,
burnishing
I
is just
mean,
rubbing it together. So you could burnish stuff, then add another layer and burnish that, or not burnish it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's just blending, mixing the colors, so you can. Yeah,
Smudging it in a way. Yeah. Um, Janice points out that Stillman and Byrne has a trio book that has 3 different colors. I'm not sure what they are, but Stillman and Byrne books are great, so I would think that would
yeah,
be a great choice. There's also that line of Strathmore books that have brown paper, and there's also a line that has gray paper, which are both really
yeah,
nice. So
yeah. And that's actually the that paper we used that for the toned paper demos that we
right,
did in the course.
and they're also like
Strathmore.
they have the paperback version, soft cover
Yeah,
version that I think is really nice.
yeah.
All right, guys. Any other questions? I'm seeing comments. I'm seeing some generalized questions, but I'm looking for some more things that will stump Kosha. Stump her. Um, yeah, one thing I was also thinking about that I've thought about a lot with this course is my colored pencil collection has grown and grown and grown. And I have like
Oh
this,
yeah.
I have like boxes of colored pencils, and then I also have like this zipper top bag that I take with me. And one of the things I got from this course is you can actually have a small number of pencils that you go take with you, blend them, and also the idea of limited palettes I think is great. I think it just really forces you to be
Yeah.
creative, and also you can create a real look to your drawings as opposed to always saying like, oh, I don't have all 17 greens that are in that. To me, that's always been the limitation of colored pencils, and I used to have it actually had the same limitation when I used to use brush tip markers, which is like you have to have every single one, every single color with
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Um, I have I have the same problem as a lot of people have. Like, I want more, but then again, I don't want to schlep around all those things, you know? And actually now um uh by doing over a month of colored pencils, I actually can see by how my colored pencils have shrunk, which ones are really favorite.
Oh, good point.
So, yeah, I mean, I can see here, I like orange a lot. That's a shorter one. I've used it a lot, and it's not because of the tip was breaking and breaking. And yellow, and I can really see like this was in the beginning of the month. This was just a tall pencil, so that way I can actually curate my own pencils. Like, oh, okay, so these are the ones that I really like using, at least in this tone paper sketchbook, and that could really change with a white paper again. Um, I have been carrying around this with me
That's a lot.
and it's a lot. And I have to say, I was just like
Right.
going through like that to find that one color. So I will definitely make this a lot smaller and do put it in like a smaller pencil case along with my fountain pen. So I have the choice, or I can combine. Um, And I also like using these kinds of things, because that also adds to the playfulness. So I think it's good to really limit what you take with you, because it makes you more creative. Exactly like you say, like, do I need all those greens, or can I just use one green and some yellow and some blue, and then I can actually mix all the colors that I want
I
and
mean,
make
Michelle
great.
has a good suggestion here. She says, I like a warm and cool of each primary and secondary to start with.
That's
Yeah.
very smart.
So that's
Yeah.
basically a dozen pencils. Um, you know, and
Okay.
I mean, maybe you could even eliminate the secondaries, but yeah, that
Yeah,
would
but
be.
then there's also colors that you don't really see if you draw from observations or from observation. These colors I really, really like, and you don't see them
Mm.
around you, but I love using them. So I would do that, like have those basics and then a few colors that you just really like, that make you really happy, and then you can use those for your limited palette or whatever.
So
Yeah.
Yara has a question I think you've sort of answered, but why don't you answer it more directly, which is talk about how you choose colors to keep things simple.
Well, like that. I like these two colors. I also like how they combine together. They are super happy. Today I will just draw with these two.
Hmm.
That's one of the ways you can choose your palette. Um, I think it's also important if you are drawing from observation and you want some kind of like uh, realistic view style, that you make sure that you have some like natural looking colors. And it can be exactly like, I don't know who suggested it, but having those basic colors, some cools, some warms, and that could be your palette. Um, Sometimes it's good to just have one red, one blue, one yellow, and work with that. Um, it really depends on your mood, I think. It also depends on the time that you have, on the subject. Sometimes it's really great to use a black and one bright color. So it's really hard to answer because it's also just following your instinct or your feeling of that moment. Like, do I want something red and sort of, you know, bright, or do I want toned down a little bit more muted colors? I mean, if you look at Andrea's work, she always uses colors that you can find in nature, and she really likes earthy tones and muted colors. That defines her style also,
Mm,
and still it's really bright.
that's a good point.
So yeah, so I don't really have a good answer.
So if you're
Sorry.
watching this as a replay rather than live, I would recommend looking at the comments because there's a big conversation going on about colored pencil sharpeners that I think is interesting. I don't know if you have any point, but to add to this, but that was one of the revelations to me about the expert webinar that we did, which was the reason your pencils are breaking is because you have a lousy pencil sharpener. And I have to admit, I have I've never really kind of thought about it. I just think of like, well, what's convenient and what's not terribly expensive. But she had that one that was basically like an old-fashioned school pencil sharpener that she was recommending. I'm not sure what brand that
Yeah,
was, but that was amazing. So, what do you think
that
about
was
pencil sharpener?
Derwent, of course.
It was a Derwent. There you go. Not surprisingly, but yes. What do you have to say
No,
about
perfect.
pencil sharpeners?
Yeah, that was a revelation to me too. I mean, I've done Draw Tip Tuesday about how to sharpen your pencils, but never really about the pencil sharpener itself. It makes sense that if you're cooking and your knife isn't sharp, then you cut your finger because it slips from whatever you're cutting, um, and it breaks things. So it's only logical that if you try to sharpen with a very blunt tool, it's just going to break. So yeah, I don't really have anything to bring to that conversation. I have found a few good ones. This one is in my, I don't even know what, I don't know the brand. I think it's a Faber-Castell. Um, I think it's a little bit of a try and error thing. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you have wasted a few dollars because they are not that expensive, except if you buy one of those really big, big ones like the one that Judith showed. But yeah, I can't really give you any
Yeah,
advice on
there's a lot of suggestions here which are great. A lot of people like the Derwent one. Joanna likes the Uli one.
that.
Komi. Um,
So
yeah, so this, so, what would be really great, guys, watching this. Can we start a discussion about this in the schoolyard? Because
yes,
if you go into the color pencil group and just share that, I'm sure there's a lot of people who aren't here, and that way we'll also capture this information. I mean, because frankly, for most of us, I think you have one or two pencil sharpeners. It's not the kind of thing you go at constantly buying pencil sharpeners. So most of us have a pretty limited experience of it. So whatever you guys know, you're probably just as expert in the matter as we are. So please do share this information. Here's somebody talking about, Stacy's talking about her Prismacolor 2-hole. Somebody talked about there was a kind that sounded like a peeler. Cape Town watercolor artist refers to the Caran d'Ache pencil peeler. It sounds like a vegetable peeler. Interesting. So,
That's
anyway.
really interesting.
Now, okay, so a person you may know, Franz, is asking, he says, do you know something about the Pentel 8-color mechanical pencil? As Kosha knows, I want to fold everything. It's true. So Franz...
What he does with...
So Franz, if you don't know it, is Kosha's dad, and a long-time Sketchbook school student. So he talks about, it's an 8-color mechanical pencil. That sounds amazing. What do you know about that?
I never use it. I guess he has one because it's true. He wants to fold everything. He loves also folding chairs that you can take on location to draw.
He's the inventor of the watercolor watch palette, which is a palette that looks like a watch that sits right there. So, yes, Franz is an expert at that.
He loves everything that is small and very, versatile in use. I think that's also, the 8-color mechanical pencil, it sounds like super because you have 8 colors, so you have your limited palette. It's just in one pencil. There you go for, not bringing too much with you. And you don't have to sharpen it because it's a mechanical pencil. I like that.
I guess so. I really don't like mechanical pencils. They feel mechanical. I mean, they feel like they're, I don't know. But he's a photographer, so maybe that's what inspires him about it.
He likes very thin lines. I mean, that's also, you can't you can't really accomplish the like blunt marks and lines, because although it might be good to always have a very sharp tip, I also really like blunt tips because you can, use them in so many other ways. And also the side of the pencil, using that's not really possible with the mechanical pencil.
So Stacy recommends the Pentel 8-color, and Franz admits that he doesn't have one. So now you have a birthday present to buy for him. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so what else? A few interesting tips that have come up here in the discussion. Christine says, if your sharpener collects shavings, be sure not to get it too full. It'll limit sharpening.
Oh, absolutely true. That's a very good tip. Put that in a schoolyard.
Please do, yes.
Yes, I have also experienced that. Like, what's happening? Oh, it's just too full. Yeah.
And Chris Bush, a different Chris, says, sharpen a graphite pencil every few colored pencils, and it'll keep your blades sharp. I wonder if is that because graphite is harder than soft colored pencil lead? Maybe
I don't know. I think graphite is a natural cleaner for some reason. I've read that on many websites,
I'm gonna start washing with graphite.
Has also mentioned it. Yeah.
Start just rubbing my face with a graphite bar. There you go. See how that works. Thistle wants to know, can you get a razor sharp tip with a mechanical pencil? Yeah, isn't that the whole point? That they all come out incredibly sharp. I'm not sure. But it's that depends, of course, on the thickness of the. Yeah. Because you're not going to get, it just comes out like a flat square thing. You can't actually put a point onto it, I don't think.
Yeah. The other day, by the way, I had actually sharpened a few of my colored pencils, like super sharp, and put them in my pencil case. And then when I wanted to grab one of my pencils,
stabbed you.
I know, so it was razor sharp.
There's nothing worse than having a pencil puncture thing too. It's really good. All right, we have 5 minutes left to talk about colored pencils. It's amazing how much we ended up having to say about it, really, right? Stacy points out that graphite is also a lubricant. That's really interesting. Yeah. Roller skates, huh? Okay.
That's true.
Jesus Maria Jose wants to know if we're going to do part 2 colored pencil course. Probably this. I mean, we'd probably bring in a whole bunch of new colored pencilers and see. But we've got so many other things to talk about too besides colored pencils. Maybe we have to do a non-colored pencil course.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yes. Well, actually, the next pencil that we're going to be dealing with is the Apple pencil.
The pencil.
The Apple pencil course, which will be coming up in a couple months. So save your pennies for that. Yes. So we're getting a lot. Catherine has said if you rub a mechanical pencil on a little piece of fine sandpaper, you can get a very sharp point. So for those people who like to do people like to draw on the head of a pin or do those kind of microscopic drawings. I have to say, I just was reminded of a movie that I saw that I think is called Searching for David Hockney, which is why it appealed to me. Okay, so this movie is about a man who spent 7 years full time, 40 hours a week, working on a single pencil drawing of Marilyn Monroe. Okay, and he did it and his goal was to make this drawing that looked like a photograph, and it did, in fact. And he had all these different magnifying glasses that he would wear, and he's constantly sharpening the pencil. And he took this photograph of Marilyn Monroe, and he just worked on it incessantly for 7 years. And his goal was ultimately to go and, once he had finished the drawing, to meet David Hockney, because he considered David Hockney to be the greatest artist alive, and he was going to go to him and say, "Can you tell me if this is a great drawing?" So in the process of making this documentary, they arranged with David Hockney to go and show him this drawing, and it comes in like this. The drawing is like packed in these special boxes. It's so elaborate, the whole thing. And then he shows it to David Hockney, who says, "Yeah, nice drawing, but why of Marilyn Monroe?" And the guy didn't really have an answer for that. You spent 7 years doing a drawing of Marilyn Monroe. It's worth finding this movie just because it's sort of interesting just to see, and also like just the kind of nuttiness of this guy. Anyway, I think that's just called Hunting for or Searching for or Seeking David. It should have been called Seeking David Hockney's, vote of approval. It's kind of crazy, but anyway.
It's a little bit disappointing to get that answer, but that's really interesting. And also, how come that you can't even answer why you've been doing this for 7 years? But
yeah. If you saw the guy, you would understand. It was like he clearly hadn't thought about it. He just thought about this goal. Donna wants to know: are we going to retire the strawberry plant?
The strawberry. I had 7 strawberry plants. I ended up with 7 of those because first plant, it just was really sad, but it revived, so I didn't kill it. But I was like, this is not going to happen again, so I got just a lot more. But they're all in the garden right now, here in the garden of the building where my studio is. So they are happy.
Do you have any strawberries yet?
I have no idea. I just gave them to the garden. I don't know where they are. I should ask. But
Cape Town Watercolor Art likes your yellow necklace. So.
Thank you.
All right. On that upbeat note, we will end this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for being part of this class. Kosha, thank you so much for making this class and for bringing these amazing artists together. It was fantastic. What else? What final words of wisdom do you have to say to us?
I have no words of wisdom. Just, I think it was 4 weeks of such colorful fun, and I've seen so many, playful drawings in the classroom, and people are still working on their homework. Yes. And I think a lot of people have revived their interest for their, the collection of colored pencils that they already have. Keep on using them, mix them with all your other tools that you have, and they are just really great. And it was an exciting 4 weeks. The course was amazing, and I really want to see more on the schoolyard. And let's really take this color or the pencil sharpener discussion. Let's take it to the schoolyard, because there's more people there who want all those pieces of advice that we've seen here in the chat.
I would give you one piece of parting advice. Colored pencils are great for urban sketching.
Oh yeah.
And so if you've taken our urban sketching class, we're about to concentrate on it. If you haven't taken our urban sketching class, it is amazing. We have some amazing colored pencil users in this class. It's a perfect summertime class, unless you're in Australia, in which case it's a perfect winter class to take. So it's really, really great. And we're going to start it, what is it, in a week or two. So if you haven't signed up for
Yep.
it, please do. Please join us. And if you don't sign up for it, to hell with it. Just go and do some urban sketching. We're about to head to, well, I'm about to head over across, I guess, this direction, this direction, this direction, this direction, towards Kosha. In a week, I'm going to Amsterdam. We're going to be at the Urban Sketching Symposium. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff about urban sketching. We're going to be meeting urban sketchers. It's going to be a very urbane and sketchy time. So please join us. Get those pencils sharpened, pack them in a bag with your sketchbook, get out in the street and start using them, because urban sketching is a great way to combine every kind of drawing into one thing, particularly colored pencil drawing. So, all right, good. So thank you again. We'll see you in the schoolyard. The colored pencil group is going to continue. We're hoping that if you haven't finished your homework, keep sharing it. And we'll see you again really soon next week. Draw to Tuesday, next Tuesday. Coming up. I didn't do a draw with me this week, by the way, because
You didn't. Yeah.
I didn't, because I was on a plane, but we will next
Didn't you
week.
just do it from the plane? Hello.
No, I was drinking. I was watching movies. The last thing I want to do is to draw with any of you. See you next week.
See you next
Bye.
week. Thanks. Bye.